Hi, I'd like to tell you a little story, or a long story, because it actually begins in 1898 when Harvey Lewis Copeland, age 22, enlisted in the Army during the Spanish American War. It was a very short war, and he never left Ohio. But after the war, he married Jeannie Marcia Thayer. She was a beautiful girl. The next year, on May 2nd, 1900, she gave birth to a boy. They named him Alden John after an ancestor of the Copeland family, John Alden. It could have been a beautiful occasion, but tragically, Lou's beautiful wife died just 11 days later. Lou and his son moved back into Lou's parents' home and lived there until Lou again married. But he didn't take young Al to his new home. Instead, he started a new family, had a boy and a girl, and young Al stayed with his grandparents. We can only surmise how he felt about that. But he followed into his father's footsteps. When he was able to enlist in World War I, he did, and went into the U.S. cavalry. But instead of being sent to France, he was sent to Arizona. He saw more of Pancho Villa than the Germans. His enlistment expired at the end of the war, and he re-enlisted. His unit was sent to Hawaii, of all places. While there, he wrote short stories, letters to the editor, poems, um, just his thoughts. And among his writings were two poems. The subject of those poems was a girl named Lucille. He spoke of their first kiss. He described her long black hair, her blue eyes, and mentioned that she was someone that he would like to marry. But it didn't happen that way. She must have been all of 15 when he knew her back in Cleveland. And when he returned, he married a lady by the name, or a girl by the name of Edith Eltholm. That was 1922. In 1925, Edith gave birth to a daughter, but she didn't last the day. And sometime later, their marriage was dissolved in divorce. We know nothing of Edith. Al began seeing a girl by the name of Lucy Sikora. Lucy's maiden name was Florence Lucille Lossner. She never used Florence. Dan and Lucy moved to his parents' home in Auburn, New York. And their first son, James, was born there. But apparently there was friction with Lucy, who was brought up in a German Lutheran home, and Dan's parents, who were immigrant Italian Catholic. They didn't stay in Auburn very long and returned to Cleveland, where their second son, Ken, was born. There was probably as much friction between Dan and his in-laws, and it was said that maybe he might have had a roving eye, and so that marriage ended in divorce. It was then that Lucy and Al started keeping company. Lucy became pregnant. That must have been a shock to everyone, or everyone that knew about it. Lucy was sent off to Chicago to live with a cousin and his wife. And on May 6, 1931, she gave birth to a boy. And she named him Harry Ronald Sikora. The birth occurred at Lutheran Evangelical Deaconess Hospital. But Lucy made arrangements for the boy to stay there in the maternity ward. And she went back home to Cleveland. The boy was available for adoption. Al and Lucy apparently never saw each other again. And I'm sure Al had no say in the arrangements. Al married Susan Polanchik in 1933 and proceeded to have a normal family, 4 daughters and a son. And Lucy moved on with her life. But there's more to the story. Joe Plefka, a veteran of France during World War I, had married Sylvia Shamoshek. They tried to have a family and lost several children. They were premature and didn't survive. She was at Evangelical Deaconess Hospital, where she lost another child, premature, too weak to survive. But she became aware of the little boy there, and she contacted Catholic Charities and asked if they could arrange an adoption. According to a letter that I have at Catholic Charities, from Catholic Charities, She had said that she wanted that boy that was in the nursery and no one else. On June 5th, 1931, Joe and Sylvia brought the baby home. And early the following year, the adoption was made final. Little Harry Ronald Sikora was now Donald James Plevka. That's me. I must have had a very happy childhood because when people asked me what I want to be when I grow up, I told them I didn't want to grow up. I liked it just the way it was. I had a wonderful set of parents and a wonderful life. Of course, they hadn't told me about how I came about to be their son. That was a secret that I wouldn't discover until I was in my 30s. But I am so grateful of the way things worked out. My mothers, both of them, are my heroes. There are some women who might have decided to take the easy way out, and I would have never been born. But Lucy didn't. There's more to this story. There's the realization that life is not like a well-planned, perfect vacation. Life is an adventure. It has surprises, discoveries, detours, and maybe tragedies. It certainly is interesting. I love my life. I wouldn't have it any other way. I thank God for my parents, both sets, and everything that has happened since then. Life is a wonderment. Thank you, God.